My name is Celeste. I am 23 years old and I am exhausted. While most college students are enjoying campus life, I am working two diner jobs just to survive. Meanwhile, my younger sister Haley is posting Instagram photos from her luxury apartment in Paris, studying abroad on my parents' money. We grew up in the same house with the same opportunities, or so I thought. That illusion shattered the day I found those documents in her room. If you are watching this video, please let me know where you are from. In the comments, subscribe to hear more stories like mine, and stay tuned to discover how I finally broke free. I grew up in what appeared to be a loving family in suburban Boston. My father, James, built a successful career as a financial advisor, while my mother, Diana, worked as an interior designer for wealthy clients. We lived in a spacious colonial home with a perfectly manicured lawn in a neighborhood where children rode bikes safely and neighbors knew each other by name. From the outside, we looked like the perfect American family. But inside our home, the dynamics were subtly imbalanced. My sister Haley, just 2 years younger than me, somehow always managed to be the center of attention. When I brought home straight A's, my parents would nod approvingly, but without much enthusiasm. When Haley brought home B's and the occasional A, there would be celebrations, special dinners, and excessive praise. I remember my 10th birthday when I received practical gifts like clothes and books while being told, "You are such a responsible girl, Celeste." But when Haley turned 10, she got the latest gaming console, a professional art set, and a lavish party with all her friends at the local country club. I told myself this was normal, that perhaps Haley just needed more encouragement than I did. Throughout elementary and middle school, I developed a pattern of overachieving, hoping it would eventually earn me the same level of enthusiasm my parents showed for Haley. I joined the debate team, played volleyball, volunteered at the local animal shelter, and maintained a perfect GPA. I became the responsible one, the planner, the achiever. Meanwhile, Haley floated through school with average grades and a social butterfly personality that charmed teachers and parents alike. By high school, the disparity became more pronounced. When I needed a laptop for my advanced placement courses, I was told to save up from my weekend babysitting job. 6 months later, Haley received a top-of-the-line MacBook Pro just because she mentioned she might want to try graphic design. Despite this, I never allowed myself to become bitter. I channeled my energy into building a future for myself. I researched colleges extensively, focusing on business programs with strong entrepreneurship tracks. I dreamed of starting my own company one day, perhaps a consulting firm, that would help small businesses thrive. During my junior year, I had a heart-to-heart conversation with my parents about college. They assured me that they had been saving for both of our educations. "We want both our girls to succeed," my father set his hand on my shoulder. "We have college funds for both of you." Those words gave me the confidence to apply to prestigious universities, including Northeastern Boston College, and even a few Ivy League schools. When my acceptance letter from Boston University arrived with a partial merit scholarship, I was ecstatic. My parents took us out to dinner to celebrate, and for once, I felt like the spotlight was rightfully on me. The summer before college, I worked full-time at a local bookstore to save extra money for expenses. I noticed Haley spent most of her days lounging by our neighborhood pool or shopping with friends, but I dismissed it. We were different people with different priorities, and that was okay. What I did not realize was that this pattern of disparity was not random or based on our different personalities. It was a carefully constructed system of favoritism that would soon reveal itself in ways I could never have imagined. The day before I left for college, my father called me into his home office. "College is expensive, Celeste," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "Your scholarship helps, but we will need you to take out some student loans to cover the difference. We can help a little, but not as much as we had hoped." I was disappointed, but understood that finances could be complicated. "What about the college fund you mentioned?" I asked. "The market has not been kind to us," he replied vaguely. "We have had some unexpected expenses come up." I nodded, trusting him completely. After all, he was a financial advisor. If anyone understood money management, it would be my father. Little did I know that this conversation was the first in a series of calculated deceptions that would ultimately tear our family apart. My first semester at Boston University started with such hope. I moved into a cramped dormitory with a roommate named Alyssa, who quickly became a close friend. The campus buzzed with energy and possibility. I was finally on my path toward independence and achievement. The first reality check came when I received my tuition statement. After my scholarship and the small contribution my parents provided, I still needed to take out nearly $20,000 in loans for the first year alone. This was significantly more than my father had implied, but I swallowed my concerns and signed the paperwork. Education was an investment in my future, I reasoned. 2 weeks into the semester, I realized my meal plan and housing expenses were stretching my budget beyond its breaking point. The spending money my parents had promised never materialized. When I called home to inquire, my mother sounded distant. "Your father and I are dealing with some financial setbacks right now, sweetie," she said. "Could you find a part-time job? It would be good experience for you anyway." I spent the next day walking around the university area, filling out applications at every business with a "Help Wanted" sign. Rosie's Diner, a 24-hour establishment about 15 minutes from campus, hired me on the spot. The manager, a gruff but kind woman named Sandra, offered me 3 breakfast shifts per week from 6 a.m. to noon. Balancing work and academics proved challenging from the start. I would wake up at 5, work until noon, then rush to afternoon classes often, without time to eat properly. Evenings were filled with study sessions that frequently stretched past midnight. Sleep became a luxury I could rarely afford. Meanwhile, my parents' financial difficulties seemed suspiciously selective. During a video call with them, I noticed my mother wearing a diamond tennis bracelet I had never seen before. When I mentioned it, she quickly changed the subject. My suspicions grew when I saw my father post photos of a golf trip to Pebble Beach with his colleagues, a notoriously expensive excursion. Each time I questioned these inconsistencies, I was met with vague explanations about business necessities or changes of subject. The real shock came via social media 2 months into my semester. Haley posted a photo of herself leaning against a brand new Audi convertible, keys in hand, with the caption, "Best early birthday gift ever. Thanks mom and dad, #blessed, #sweet18, #new whip." I stared at my phone screen in disbelief. My sister, who was not even in college yet, had just received a $40,000 car while I was working myself to exhaustion to afford basic necessities. The contrast was so stark that I could no longer pretend it was normal. That evening, I called my parents determined to have an honest conversation. "Why does Haley get a new luxury car while I can barely afford textbooks?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. There was a long pause before my father responded. "Celeste, you are being dramatic. The car is a certified pre-owned model, not brand new, and we got an excellent deal through one of my clients." "That is not the point," I insisted. "I am working nearly 20 hours a week just to afford food and basic expenses. Something does not add up." My mother interjected, her voice taking on the placating tone she used when she thought I was being unreasonable. "Honey, you have always been so independent and responsible. We are just allowing you to develop those strengths. Haley needs more guidance and support." The conversation continued in circles until I was emotionally exhausted. They had an answer for everything, each explanation making me sound selfish for questioning their decisions. By the time we hung up, I felt guilty for even bringing it up. The following week brought another revelation. Haley called me bubbling with excitement. She had been accepted to Boston University and would be joining me the following year. "Mom and Dad are getting me an apartment off campus," she announced. "They said dorm life would be too stressful for me." The injustice of it all hit me like a physical blow. My grades were suffering from my exhausting schedule. Dark circles had become a permanent feature under my eyes. Meanwhile, my sister was being set up for a college experience without any of these hardships. When finals came around, I barely managed B's in 2 classes, and C's in the others, a devastating result for someone who had never received anything below an A-. My academic advisor placed me on academic watch and suggested I consider reducing my work hours. I laughed bitterly at the suggestion. Reduce work hours. With what alternative source of income? As the semester ended, I applied to stay on campus during winter break so I could pick up additional shifts at Rosie's. The thought of going home to watch my parents shower Haley with Christmas gifts while I struggled to make ends meet was more than I could bear. On Christmas Day, my family video called me from our living room. Behind them stood a massive tree surrounded by presents, many tagged with Haley's name. They showed me the small pile they had set aside for me, mostly practical items like winter boots and a new backpack for school. "We miss you, honey," my mother said, but made no offer to help me come home or acknowledge why I was staying away. That night alone in my nearly empty dormitory, I made a promise to myself. I would survive this. I would graduate despite their lack of support. And someday I would understand why my own parents had decided I deserved so much less than my sister. 1 year later, my life had devolved into a grueling routine of work and study with little time for anything else. In addition to my morning shifts at Rosie's Diner, I had taken on night shifts at the 24-hour diner across town. Between the two jobs, I was working nearly 40 hours a week while still maintaining a full course load. My daily schedule had become a carefully calculated nightmare. I would wake at 5 a.m. for opening shift at Rosie's until noon, attend classes until 6 p.m., grab dinner on the run, then work at the 24-hour diner from 8 p.m. until 2 a.m. This left me with barely 3 hours of sleep on the days I had both jobs. On my easy days, I might get 5 hours. The physical toll was becoming increasingly evident. I had lost 15 pounds from my already slim frame. My hair was thinning, and I caught every cold that circulated through campus. Caffeine had become my primary food group, and proper meals were a rare luxury I could seldom afford. Meanwhile, Haley had started her freshman year at Boston University, with all the advantages I had been denied. True to their word, our parents had set her up in a luxury apartment in one of the most expensive buildings near campus. While I shared a cramped dorm room with 2 other students, having been moved to a triple to save on housing costs, Haley enjoyed a spacious one-bedroom with floor-to-ceiling windows and a rooftop pool. The contrast between our lives became painfully clear when our parents came to visit one weekend in October. They spent Saturday shopping with Haley, buying her new clothes decorations for her apartment, and taking her to an expensive dinner at one of Boston's finest restaurants. On Sunday morning, they met me for a quick coffee between my shift at Rosie's and my afternoon study group. "You look tired, Celeste," my mother observed, frowning slightly as she sipped her latte. "I am tired," I replied flatly. "That is what happens when you work 2 jobs and take a full course load." My father checked his watch. "Well, we cannot stay long. We promised Haley we would help her pick out a new desk for her study area." I bit my tongue to hold back a bitter remark about how I did my studying at the library because I could not afford a desk. Instead, I forced a smile and told them I understood. Our coffee lasted exactly 32 minutes before they made their excuses and left. The following week brought another blow. During one of our rare text conversations, Haley mentioned she was planning to study abroad in Paris for the spring semester. "Mom and Dad are so excited for me," she wrote. "Dad says it will be amazing for my resume and personal growth." I stared at the message for a long time, wondering how the same parents who could not afford to help me with basic living expenses could fund an extravagant semester abroad. Paris was one of the most expensive cities in the world, and international study programs typically cost thousands beyond regular tuition. My suspicions were confirmed when I overheard Haley on the phone in the university cafe discussing the details with our mother. The program cost nearly $20,000 for a single semester, not including spending money, travel, or housing upgrades. The casual way she talked about choosing between apartment options in different Parisian neighborhoods made my stomach twist with a mixture of envy and indignation. That evening, I called my parents, determined to understand the disparity. "I just heard about Haley's Paris program," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. "That sounds expensive." "It is an investment in her future," my father replied smoothly. "The international experience will give her a competitive edge." "Would the same not apply to me?" I asked. "Why am I working 2 jobs just to stay afloat while Haley gets to live in Paris?" My mother's voice took on the defensive tone I had come to expect. "Celeste, you and your sister have different needs and different paths. We are supporting each of you in the ways that suit your individual journeys. By making me work until I am literally getting sick while Haley lives in luxury," I could not keep the hurt from my voice. "You have always been more independent," my father said. "You are developing valuable work ethic and life skills. Haley needs more guidance and structure. She is living in a luxury apartment and going to Paris," I said incredulously. "How exactly is that structure?" The conversation devolved into the same circular reasoning I had come to expect. Haley needed more support. I was stronger and more independent. They were proud of me for working so hard. They were doing their best for both of us. By the time we hung up, I felt gaslit and confused. Was I being unreasonable? Was there something wrong with me for feeling that this situation was deeply unfair? I shared my frustration with my friend and roommate Alyssa, who had watched my situation unfold over the past year. "Celeste, this is not normal," she said firmly. "Parents who can afford to send one child to Paris can afford to help the other child not work herself to death. Something is very wrong here." Her validation was like a breath of fresh air. I was not crazy or entitled for expecting equal treatment. The question was, why were my parents so determined to make my college experience as difficult as possible, while smoothing every wrinkle from Haley's path? As winter approached, my health continued to deteriorate. I developed a persistent cough that would not go away. Dark circles became a permanent feature under my eyes. One morning, I nearly fainted during my shift at Rosie's, catching myself on the counter just in time. "That is it," said Sandra, my manager. "You are taking tomorrow off, no arguments. You need to see a doctor." The medical center diagnosed me with bronchitis and exhaustion, prescribing antibiotics and rest. The doctor looked concerned when I explained my schedule. "This is not sustainable," she said bluntly. "Your body cannot continue functioning on this little sleep and this much stress." The medical bill came to $350 after student insurance, an amount that would require me to pick up extra shifts once I was well enough to work again. The irony was not lost on me. When I called my parents to explain my situation, hoping they might help with the unexpected expense, my mother made sympathetic noises, but offered no financial assistance. "Make sure you are eating properly, sweetie," she said. "Maybe cut back on the caffeine." I hung up feeling more alone than ever. My own parents seemed to care more about Haley's Parisian adventure than the fact that their older daughter was working herself to the point of collapse. Alyssa found me crying in our room later that evening. Without a word, she sat beside me and put her arm around my shoulders. "My parents are helping me with rent next semester," she said quietly. "You could move in with me, split the costs. It would be cheaper than the dorm, and you might be able to cut back a few hours at work." Her kindness broke something inside me. Here was a friend offering more support than my own family. I accepted her offer through tears of gratitude, wondering how it had come to this. That night I lay awake, despite my exhaustion, trying to make sense of my parents' behavior. There had to be more to the story than simple favoritism. But what could possibly explain such a dramatic difference in how they treated their daughters? The official announcement of Haley's Paris adventure came during Thanksgiving break. I had finally saved enough to afford a bus ticket home, motivated more by a need for answers than any desire for family togetherness. The dinner started pleasantly enough. My mother had prepared all the traditional favorites, and the dining room looked like something from a magazine spread with autumnal decorations and gleaming silverware. I noticed my place setting looked slightly different from the others, with an older mismatched set of utensils, but I dismissed it as an oversight. Halfway through the meal, my father tapped his glass with a spoon and stood. "I would like to propose a toast," he announced, retrieving a bottle of champagne from the sideboard. I watched in disbelief as he poured glasses for everyone, including 17-year-old Haley, deliberately skipping my place. "To our Haley," he continued, either not noticing or not caring about the omission, "who has been accepted to the prestigious Paris Institute of Art and Culture for her spring semester abroad. We are so proud of you, sweetheart." My mother beamed, raising her glass. "Paris. Can you imagine our little girl living in the city of lights?" Everyone clinked glasses while I sat frozen, feeling like an observer rather than a participant in my own family. When my father finally noticed my empty hand, he gave a dismissive shrug. "Oh, Celeste, would you like some champagne too?" The casual afterthought was almost worse than the initial exclusion. I declined with a tight smile, unwilling to give them the satisfaction of seeing how deeply the slight had hurt me. After dinner, the gift-giving began. My parents presented Haley with an expensive set of luggage, a professional camera to document her European adventure, and a new laptop better suited for her graphic design courses. The final gift was a credit card connected to my father's account. for emergencies and cultural experiences. I sat quietly through it all, my resentment building with each extravagant present. When the attention finally turned to me, my mother handed me a small envelope. "We did not forget you, Celeste," she said with a smile that did not reach her eyes. Inside was a $25 gift card to the campus bookstore. The disparity was so absurd it was almost comical. I thanked them mechanically, tucking the card into my pocket while fighting back tears. Later that evening, I approached my mother in the kitchen as she loaded the dishwasher. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something serious," I began. "I received a medical bill last week. I have bronchitis from exhaustion. The doctor says my schedule is dangerous for my health." She barely looked up from arranging the plates. "You have always pushed yourself too hard, Celeste. Maybe try some vitamin C and echinacea." "I do not need herbal remedies," I said, my voice rising in frustration. "I need help paying this bill. It is $350 that I do not have." "Money is tight right now with Haley's Paris program," she replied. "Could you pick up an extra shift or two?" The irony of her suggestion left me speechless. Pick up extra shifts to pay for the medical care I needed. Because I was working too many shifts. I left the kitchen without another word, understanding that no amount of explanation would make them see the injustice of our situation. The following week brought new challenges. Upon returning to Boston, I found an eviction notice on my dormitory door. An administrative error had caused my housing payment to be marked late, and without immediate resolution, I would lose my housing right before finals. In desperation, I called my father. "Dad, there has been a mistake with my housing payment. I need $2,000 to resolve it, or I will be homeless during finals week. I can pay you back for my tax return next year." His response was immediate and cold. "Celeste, you need to be more responsible with these things. Your mother and I cannot keep bailing you out every time you mismanage your finances." "Bail me out," I repeated incredulously. "When have you ever bailed me out? And this was not even my error, it was the university's mistake." "Nevertheless," he continued, "you are an adult now. You need to handle these problems yourself. Perhaps this will be a valuable lesson in financial management." I hung up feeling a strange mix of despair and clarity. This was not normal parental behavior. Something deeper and more troubling was at play here. Through frantic efforts and the help of a sympathetic financial aid counselor, I managed to resolve the housing issue. But the incident left me emotionally drained as finals approached. The final insult came the week before Haley's departure for Paris. My parents organized a farewell dinner at one of Boston's most upscale restaurants, inviting extended family and Haley's friends to celebrate. By cruel coincidence, the restaurant was one where I had recently begun picking up occasional catering shifts to help cover my textbook expenses for the upcoming semester. That evening, I found myself serving appetizers to my own family's celebration, wearing a black uniform, and carrying a tray while they toasted Haley's good fortune. My parents acknowledged me with uncomfortable nods, but made no effort to explain my presence to the other guests, many of whom looked confused to see me working the event. Haley at least had the decency to appear embarrassed, but not enough to say anything. When I served her table, she avoided eye contact and spoke to me as she would any other server. "Could we get more bread for the table, please?" she asked, not using my name. I nodded professionally, retreating to the kitchen, where I finally allowed myself a moment of breakdown. Hiding in the storage pantry, I sobbed silently, wondering what I had done to deserve such treatment from the people who were supposed to love me most in the world. Alyssa found me there after texting repeatedly with no response. She had become worried and tracked my location using our shared phone app. Without a word, she embraced me, letting me cry on her shoulder. "This ends now," she whispered fiercely. "No job is worth this kind of humiliation. We will figure something else out." I finished my shift through sheer determination, then allowed Alyssa to take me home to her apartment, where I spent the night on her couch. That evening marked a turning point. I was done accepting the unacceptable. Something had to change, and I was becoming desperate enough to demand answers no matter how uncomfortable the truth might be. 2 weeks after the disastrous dinner, I found myself with a rare day off from both jobs. My parents had taken Haley to the airport for her flight to Paris, and would be spending the weekend at our family home. On impulse, I decided to visit the house while they were out, hoping to find some clue that might explain their behavior. I still had my key, and the house was empty when I arrived. Everything looked the same as always, tastefully decorated and meticulously maintained. I wandered through the rooms feeling like a stranger in my childhood home. In my father's office, I hesitated before his desk. I had never gone through his things before, but desperation pushed me forward. The drawers revealed nothing unusual, just neatly organized office supplies and financial documents related to his business. I was about to give up when I heard the front door open. Freezing in panic, I was relieved to hear only Haley's voice. She had apparently forgotten something and returned to retrieve it before heading to the airport. Not wanting an awkward confrontation, I slipped out of the office and headed upstairs, planning to wait in my old bedroom until she left. As I passed her room, however, I noticed the door was ajar, and curiosity drew me in. Haley's room had been recently redecorated, now looking more like a sophisticated apartment than a teenager's bedroom. Designer clothes spilled from her closet, and expensive electronics covered every surface. On her desk sat a folder with what looked like travel documents for Paris. As I turned to leave, a different folder caught my eye. It was labeled with my name, Celeste Truman Trust. Something about seeing my name written there stopped me in my tracks. I had just picked up the folder when Haley appeared in the doorway, her expression shifting from surprise to alarm. "What are you doing in my room?" she demanded, her eyes fixing on the folder in my hands. "This has my name on it," I said, holding up the folder. "Why do you have documents about me?" Haley lunged forward, trying to snatch the folder from my grasp. "That is nothing. Give it back. You should not be going through my things. It has my name on it," I repeated, holding the folder out of her reach. "Why would you have documents with my name unless they concern me?" "Put it down," she shouted, her face flushing with panic. "Do not look at that." Her reaction only intensified my determination. We struggled briefly, papers spilling onto the floor. As Haley scrambled to gather them, I managed to grab several sheets, backing away to read them. What I saw made my blood run cold. It was a trust fund statement established by my grandmother Martha before she died when I was 12 years old. The trust had been set up specifically for my educational expenses, with a value of over $150,000. My father was listed as the trustee. Further pages revealed regular withdrawals over the past 2 years, coinciding exactly with Haley's extravagant expenses. The most recent withdrawal, dated just 1 week earlier, was for $20,000, the exact amount of Haley's Paris program. The room seemed to tilt around me as the implications became clear. My parents had not been struggling financially. They had been stealing from me. My own education fund had been systematically drained to finance Haley's privileged lifestyle. "You knew about this?" I asked Haley, my voice barely above a whisper. Her defiant expression told me everything before she even spoke. "It was not supposed to be just yours," she said. "Grandma always liked you better. Dad said it was only fair to even things out." "Even things out?" I repeated in disbelief. "By making me work 2 jobs while you live in luxury on money that was legally mine. They always thought I had more potential than you," she blurted out, then immediately looked like she regretted the words. "I mean, you are so practical and responsible. You can handle working. I need to focus on my creative development." The cruelty of this statement, delivered so matter-of-factly, left me momentarily speechless. All these years I had believed my parents saw something special in Haley that they did not see in me. The truth was far worse. They saw potential in both of us, but had deliberately sabotaged mine to advance hers. "Does this seem fair to you?" I asked, genuinely wanting to understand how she justified this in her mind. Haley had the decency to look uncomfortable, but her response revealed how deeply she had internalized our parents' twisted logic. "Life is not fair, Celeste. Mom and Dad are just making the best investments for the family. Your trust was never going to be enough for both of us to have the same opportunities." "So I was sacrificed," I said flatly. "You are always so dramatic," she replied, echoing our parents' favorite dismissal. "It is just money." Just money. The words hung in the air between us. Just money that had cost me my health, my academic standing, and nearly 2 years of my life spent in exhausting labor. Without another word, I gathered every document I could find related to the trust and took photos of each page with my phone. Haley protested, but did not physically try to stop me again. "They will never admit it," she said as I headed for the door. "They will say you misunderstood or that they were going to pay it back." "We will see about that," I replied, a cold determination replacing the shock and hurt. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of clarity and purpose. The mystery of my parents' behavior had been solved, and with that knowledge came power. I left the house without looking back, already planning my next steps. This was not just about money. It was about betrayal of the deepest kind from the people who should have protected me. And I was finally ready to confront it head on. With the damning evidence secured on my phone, I spent the next week consulting with Alyssa's cousin Mark, who was finishing his law degree at Boston University. After reviewing the documents, his assessment was unequivocal. "This is straightforward financial fraud," he said, pointing to my father's signature on the trustee documents. "As the trustee, your father had a fiduciary responsibility to manage the trust in your best interest. Using it for your sister's expenses is a clear violation of that duty." "What are my options?" I asked, still processing the magnitude of the betrayal. "You could pursue criminal charges," Mark explained, "or you could approach them privately with evidence and demand restitution plus damages. Either way, you are in a strong legal position." I decided on a strategic approach. First, I made backup copies of all evidence and stored them securely. Then I consulted with the financial aid office at my university, explaining my situation without initially revealing the fraud. They confirmed that if I could prove the existence of the trust, I might qualify for a recalculation of my financial aid package. With my ducks in a row, I planned the confrontation carefully. I wanted to give my parents the opportunity to make things right before escalating to legal action. Part of me still hoped there might be some explanation that could salvage our relationship, though that hope diminished with every document I reviewed. I invited my parents to dinner at a modest restaurant near campus, suggesting it was time we had a serious family discussion. To my surprise, they agreed readily, perhaps believing I wanted to apologize for the tension of recent months. I asked them not to bring Haley, explaining that I wanted to speak with them alone first. They arrived looking slightly uncomfortable, but maintaining the polished facade they always presented in public. My mother commented on how tired I looked, while my father immediately launched into a story about a client's financial success, as if to remind me of his expertise. I waited until after we had ordered to place a folder on the table between us. "I need to ask you about something important." I began, my voice steadier than I expected. "I recently discovered some documents about a trust fund that Grandma Martha established for me before she died." The change in their expressions was immediate and telling. My father's face hardened while my mother's eyes darted nervously around the restaurant. "I am not sure what you think you found," my father said carefully. "But family financial matters are complex. You may have misunderstood." "I understand perfectly," I replied, opening the folder to reveal the trust documentation with his signature prominently displayed. This trust was established specifically for my education. Over $150,000 designated legally for me. Money that could have prevented me from working 2 jobs and taking out loans. My mother reached across the table as if to take my hand, but I pulled away. "Celeste, sweetie, we always intended to pay that money back. We were just balancing resources between both our girls." "By stealing from me?" I asked bluntly. "By watching me work until I got sick while spending my money on Haley's apartment and Paris trip?" My father's expression shifted from defensive to coldly rational. "We made the best decisions for the family as a whole. The trust was never going to be enough for both of you to have the same opportunities. We had to prioritize. And you decided I was the one to sacrifice," I said, the hurt evident in my voice, despite my attempts to remain composed. "You have always been stronger, more independent," my mother insisted. "Haley needs more support to thrive. So you deliberately sabotaged my college experience and health because you thought I could handle it better." I shook my head in disbelief. "That is not love, Mom. That is abuse." The word hung between us like a physical presence. My father's face flushed with anger. "You have no idea the sacrifices we have made for this family," he said, his voice low and threatening. "You are being selfish and ungrateful." "Legally speaking," I continued, ignoring his attempt to intimidate me, What you have done constitutes fraud. As trustee, you had a fiduciary duty to manage that money for my benefit. For the first time, I saw real fear flicker across my father's face. He was a financial advisor. A fraud charge could end his career. What exactly are you suggesting? He asked cautiously. I have two options for you, I said, surprised by my own calmness. Either I can pursue criminal charges for fraud, which would likely result in professional consequences for you and significant legal expenses, or you can sign an agreement to restore the full amount of the trust plus interest within 30 days. You would do that to your own parents, my mother gasped. Destroy your father's career, break up our family. I met her gaze steadily. You broke this family the moment you decided one daughter deserved to thrive, while the other deserved to suffer. I am simply holding you accountable for that choice. My father stared at the documents, his financial mind clearly calculating the ramifications. We would need time to liquidate some investments, he said finally. 30 days, I repeated. And I want a formal agreement drafted by my lawyer, signed by both of you, acknowledging the violation of the trust and committing to full restitution. And if we do this, what then? My mother asked tearfully. Will you forgive us? Can we move forward as a family? The question caught me off guard. I had been so focused on the practical aspects of resolution that I had not fully processed the emotional implications. I do not know, I answered honestly. Trust, once broken, is not easily repaired. I need time. You are making a mistake, my father said, making one last attempt to regain control. Family should come first. This approach is cold and transactional. You taught me that lesson, I replied. Every time you calculated my worth against Haley's and found me lacking. Every time you watched me struggle while using my own money to make her life easier. Do not talk to me about family when you treated me as an outsider in my own home. The rest of the meal passed in uncomfortable silence. When the check came, I paid it myself, a small but symbolic gesture. As we prepared to leave, I handed them the lawyer's contact information. He will be in touch tomorrow with the agreement, I said. I suggest you sign it promptly. My father took the card, his expression unreadable. You have changed, he said, not entirely as a criticism. Yes, I agreed. I have. I am no longer the desperate daughter begging for equal treatment or trying to earn your love through achievement. That girl is gone. As I watched them leave the restaurant, I felt no triumph, only a profound sadness for what our family could have been, and a quiet determination to build a better future for myself, free from their manipulation and conditional love. Later that night, Haley called, clearly having been briefed by our parents. You are tearing the family apart, she accused. They are devastated. They made their choices, I replied calmly. Now they are facing the consequences. What about me? She demanded. They are talking about making me come home from Paris. That is between you and them, I said. My concern is recovering what is legally mine. I always knew you were jealous of me, she said bitterly, but I never thought you would go this far. This is not about jealousy, Haley. It is about justice. The fact that you still do not see that shows how deeply you have bought into their distorted perspective. I hung up feeling drained but resolute. The hardest steps had been taken. Now I needed to focus on rebuilding my life with the resources that should have been mine all along. 6 months after the confrontation at the restaurant, I sat in my small but comfortable apartment near campus, reviewing my class schedule for the upcoming semester. Sunshine streamed through the windows, illuminating a space that felt truly mine for the first time. The legal resolution had proceeded more smoothly than I anticipated. Faced with irrefutable evidence and the threat of professional ruin, my father had signed the agreement within a week. 30 days later, the full amount of the trust plus interest appeared in a new account that had been established under my exclusive control. With those funds secured, I had made several life-changing decisions. First, I transferred from Boston University to Northeastern, partly to distance myself from constant reminders of Haley and our parents, but also because their business program better aligned with my entrepreneurial goals. A combination of my improved GPA, now that I could reduce my work hours, and an impressive application essay about overcoming adversity, had earned me a substantial scholarship. I still worked at Rosie's Diner, but only 2 shifts per week. Sandra had been delighted by my improved health and energy, promoting me to shift supervisor with slightly better pay. The job now felt like a choice rather than a desperate necessity, and I found I actually enjoyed the work when it was not killing me. My apartment was small, but perfect for my needs, shared with Alyssa, who had stood by me through the entire ordeal. We had furnished it gradually with secondhand finds and the occasional splurge, creating a warm, welcoming space that felt like a true home. The restoration of my financial security had allowed me to address the health issues that had plagued me during those grueling years of overwork. Regular medical checkups, proper nutrition, and adequate sleep had transformed me physically. The persistent cough had disappeared, my weight had stabilized, and the perpetual exhaustion had given way to a steady, sustainable energy. My relationship with my family remained complicated. My parents had complied with the legal requirements, but struggled to acknowledge the emotional damage they had caused. Our interactions remained formal and infrequent, limited to occasional text messages and rare phone calls. Haley had returned from Paris early when our parents could no longer fund her extravagant lifestyle there. She had attempted to reach out several times, oscillating between anger and tentative efforts at reconciliation. I maintained polite but firm boundaries, unwilling to pretend nothing had happened, yet not entirely ready to close that door forever. The most unexpected development had been the growth of my small side business. What had started as informal advice to fellow students about navigating financial aid and budgeting had evolved into a structured service. I now ran workshops and one-on-one consultations, helping students from disadvantaged backgrounds understand their options and advocate for themselves within university systems. The work was deeply satisfying, transforming my painful experiences into valuable knowledge that could help others avoid similar struggles. I charged minimal fees for those who could afford it and offered free services to those who could not, supported by a small grant from the university's Entrepreneurship Center. On this particular morning, I was preparing for an important meeting with the Dean of Student Affairs. My proposal for an official financial literacy program had gained traction, and there was talk of incorporating it into the university's orientation for first-generation college students. As I gathered my materials, my phone buzzed with a text from Haley. "Can we meet for coffee sometime? I have been doing a lot of thinking." I stared at the message, conflicting emotions washing over me. Part of me remained wary of reopening those wounds, but another part recognized that healing might require addressing our relationship directly. After careful consideration, I replied, "I can meet Sunday afternoon at the cafe near the library, 2 p.m. Setting boundaries did not necessarily mean cutting all ties. It meant establishing new terms for those relationships based on mutual respect, rather than exploitation. The therapy I had begun 3 months earlier had helped me understand that forgiveness did not require forgetting or returning to harmful patterns. It was possible to acknowledge the pain my family had caused while releasing the bitterness that had threatened to consume me. My therapist, Dr. Larson, had helped me see the difference between acceptance and reconciliation. I could accept what had happened and move forward without necessarily restoring the same relationships that had caused such damage. The true test of healing, she had told me during our last session, is not whether you can rebuild the same bridges that were burned, but whether you can stand firmly on your own ground without being pulled back into old patterns. Those words resonated deeply as I prepared for my meeting. I was standing on my own ground now, building a life defined by my own choices and values, rather than by my family's distorted expectations. The journey had been painful beyond measure, but it had also revealed strengths I never knew I possessed. I had discovered my capacity for self-advocacy, for setting boundaries, for demanding justice, even from those I had been taught to obey without question. More importantly, I had learned that true family is defined not by blood, but by respect, honesty, and genuine support. The friends who had stood by me through my darkest moments had demonstrated more family loyalty than those who shared my DNA. As I locked my apartment and stepped into the sunshine, I felt a deep sense of peace. The road ahead would not be perfect, and there would certainly be challenges to face. But for the first time in years, I was walking that road on my own terms, unburdened by the weight of others' expectations and injustices. The trust that had been broken was not just financial but emotional. The implicit trust a child places in their parents to treat them with fairness and love. While the money had been restored, that deeper breach might never fully heal. And that was okay. I had learned that some broken things cannot and should not be repaired, but must instead be acknowledged, accepted, and left behind as we build something new and healthier. That evening, after a successful meeting with the dean, I sat on my small balcony watching the sunset. My phone buzzed with a notification from one of my workshop participants, sharing the news that she had successfully appealed her financial aid decision and would be able to continue her education. These were the moments that mattered now, not the approval I had once desperately sought from parents who could never give it, but the tangible impact of transforming my pain into purpose. I thought about the long journey from that exhausted, exploited young woman working 2 diner jobs to the person I had become. The path had been marked by betrayal and hardship, but also by discovery and growth. If you have ever felt unseen or undervalued by the very people who should cherish you, most know that your worth is not determined by their failure to recognize it. Sometimes the greatest act of self-love is to walk away from those who cannot love you properly, to cut the ties that bind you to patterns of abuse and neglect. My story is still being written one day at a time, one choice at a time. But now I am the author, not merely a character in someone else's narrative. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members? Let me know in the comments below. If my story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more journeys of overcoming family betrayal and finding strength in unexpected places. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that they deserve better. Thank you for listening to my truth. And remember, sometimes the family we choose brings more healing than the family we are born into.